Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to the videos. Another paid request, this time for Phil. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for Saw 3D, the final chapter, also known Saw 7. Of course, anytime something says the final chapter, or the final anything, you know it's false. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare. It's never final. Because after this you had Jigsaw, and then you had Spiral, and then you have Saw X. It's never final. And this reminded me why I hated this franchise. Because Saw X I saw. And I didn't mind it. As a standalone movie. As a standalone film, I didn't mind it. Because, in a weird way, it kind of distanced itself into just being this story about Jigsaw getting screwed over, he gets revenge on these scam artists or bad guys as well, and some of them actually deserve their fate. In a weird way, it was kind of its own isolated story. And that's why when I referenced like the Detective Hoffman during the credits, I groaned. Because the less connection, the better for me. Because Saw 1 and Saw X, a little bit of Saw 2, that's pretty much where my likes of the franchise end. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, this one, Jigsaw, Spiral. There's some parts I found interesting is the wrong word, but that's a film I wanted to be better than it was. I was pulling for Chris Rock to do something a bit different, but hope in one hand, shit in the other, see which one gets filled up first. And this might be the worst Saw film for me. Because they bring Cary Elwes back from the first Saw film as Dr. Gordon. We see at the beginning how he survived, where he crawled, he's bleeding, there's a pipe, and he sizzles his wound on the pipe. He gets knocked out from the pain, but it stopped the bleeding. Then it cuts to the rest of the credits and the rest of the movie. They throw in the 3D gimmick because, hey, 3D was very popular around the time of 2010, so every other movie tried to have a 3D gimmick on it. Although, to be honest, very few times you saw 3D stuff in this. So I don't really know how good the 3D would have been for this movie. And this is one of those films that you have to remember what happened in the past to understand what's going on. You have to know, which I guess makes sense, like why would you go into a Saw 7 final chapter without seeing the other ones? I get that. But it's like, oh, well, here's Costas Mandylor as Detective Hoffman. And the previous film, he was in this bear trap, but then he survived, and now he's chasing after Jigsaw, Tobin Bell's wife. And now she's in danger. So then one chunk of the film is, I think her character's name is Jill. She, the end of police protection, worried about Costas Mandylor, worried about where Detective Hoffman will come in and grab her and kill her and all this stuff. I even forgot why the fuck he wanted to kill her and why she wanted to kill him. And I think like Jigsaw thought Hoffman was going too far, which is ridiculous when you think about it. Because I didn't think about this as Saw X because it felt like just its own identity. You could almost see that film without seeing the other movies in a way. This one, I said, okay, if Jigsaw's mad at Hoffman for doing this, well, Jigsaw is hypocritical as shit too. Because there's a lot of people that he killed that didn't fucking deserve it either. Not even close. And that's the thing, when you look more, I mean, you just say he's insane. He's a villain. There's just ended on that. Okay. But the way people kind of build up Jigsaw more and more is like, well, he has his moral code and this and that. When I watched Saw X, I could buy into that notion. But when you go back to the actual set of movies, you can't buy into that. Because it's not true. This whole, it's only people that deserved it, or it's only people that deserve, that need a second chance, that need to showcase their will to survive. That's bullshit. Because if that's the case, then how come Danny Glover's character, Detective Tapp, died? What did he do that was so wrong? He was a cop that was on a case to save a person. His partner was murdered. He was wounded. So now he wants to find the person who murdered his friend and who's killing these people. You made all the evidence point to Dr. Gordon. And now you don't... and then you kill Danny Glover's character. He didn't deserve to die. Dr. Gordon, Cary Elwes. You had a guy sent that if he failed, his family would die. What did his family do to deserve it? We want to later on see, oh, Jigsaw, he's a guy we should feel sorry for in a way. And no. He's ready to... You're mad at Detective Hoffman for going too far? In the first Saw film, you had a guy hired that if Cary Elwes' character didn't win, you would go off and kill the guy's wife and kid. Where's your fucking moral code there, dit face? Hell, what about Adam, the Lee Winnell, his character in Saw 1? What did he really do to deserve it? He was hired to follow and take pictures. And technically, he won. If you think about in the first Saw movie, he fucking... this guy tried to kill him. He pushed Cary Elwes off. He shot this one guy, saved his life. Even saved this guy's life who tried to kill him. So technically Adam did all he could. And there's like, well, that tea is in the bathtub. There's no way for him to win because as soon as he wakes up in the tub, the tea fucking washes away. And then I think later on, well, actually, Amanda, Shawnee Smith fucked around with the tea and made it so he couldn't win. So Jigsaw didn't know that, couldn't figure that out? When he's supposed to be the big know-it-all? Same with here. Because I said there's the bit with the detective chasing after this Jill lady. Tobin Bell, Jigsaw's wife. The other part of the film is this character played by Patrick Flanery, who I don't mind as an actor, who pretended to be a Jigsaw survivor so he could get a book deal and make some money, but he really wasn't. So he's been taken and he's got to perform these tasks to save a couple people. And by the end, it's to save his wife from being burnt to a crisp. Cruelty crisp. Now, Hoffman set this up supposedly based on Jigsaw's traps. Jigsaw's plan. If that's the case, then why the fuck is Jigsaw having this innocent woman, Jace? I forget her name. Joyce? What did she do? Because a lot of times Jigsaw's like, you don't respect life, or you take your life for granted. That's supposed to be his moral thing. What the hell did the wife do? She didn't fucking do anything. And now she's gonna burn to death because she married someone who was a dick? That was her crime? And this is based on Jigsaw's? That's the thing, when you look into it at all, it doesn't... Nothing tracks. And this is why Jigsaw is not one of my favorite fucking villains. And despite me not buying Saw X, when I look back on a film like this is why I hate this fucking franchise. There's barely any fucking story. The story that's there is overcomplicated, over-convoluted. Jigsaw somehow guessed 18 fucking moves ahead. But yet couldn't guess that Shawnee Smith was doing certain things. Otherwise, he will let the Atom guy live. And that's the thing. It makes me look back on Saw X and go, well, some of this doesn't make sense. Like, Tobin Bell adamant that this girl should go to a hospital. And apparently the Rooster feels the same way. I think the Rooster, he was a fan of Saw. He's realizing how bullshit it is too. Because, think about it. In Saw X, Tobin Bell's so adamant, she survived her test, she needs to go to the hospital. If that's the case, then Adam in the first Saw should have gone to the hospital. How did he fail? How is he supposed to win? The lead winner. How is he supposed to win in Saw 1? And he didn't deserve to die. But we look past on Saw 1 because we just view him as a villain. He's a piece of shit villain. But then, like, so he's just a hypocritical dick face. And this whole thing is convoluted, and it's... The one positive I will say is it does have a decent amount of death scenes. This is probably one of the more bigger body counts in the franchise. Whether it be the beginning where these two guys tied together. Even though how the fuck Hoffman did this, where it's a public place, where everyone could look through the window of this, I guess, store. But somehow he got 3 people and a big saw here and 2 people tied on either end and a woman tied up there. He was able to do this without anybody noticing, without anybody realizing it in fucking public. And then it's supposed to be this 3-way, and this woman fucked both of you, so do you want to fuck over the other guy, or do you want the girl who is toxic? So they're trying to choose. So they choose the girl, and she lowers down, and for the most part it's practical gore. Sometimes the look of the blood doesn't seem right. I don't know what it is. But I appreciate the practical blood and gore. Same with... There's another bit where these racists are in a garage, and a guy's kind of in the car, trapped. And this, the whole moral thing, I can bypass, because this is Detective Hoffman. He doesn't buy into that shit. So this is not meant for just, like, this is... Hoffman don't give a fuck about that. He just, fuck these guys. You don't be fucked anyway. So the guy's like trying to get to this thing. He's ripping the skin off his back, and it runs over one person's face. It tears someone's body part off. It goes and hits another person, runs them over. It hits and the guy flies through the windshield. They all die, and that's all meant to happen. And that's the thing, like, things have to be so overly complicated, and everything has to work out perfectly in these plans. Like, if 1 or 2 things didn't work out, their plan would go out the fucking window. That's another thing with the Saw films. It's like these plans have to go explicitly on the nose. Yeah, that was kind of refreshing about Saw X, is that the plan doesn't go exactly how it is, and they have to adapt to it in a way. I mean, you say the worst problem with Saw X is that it's related to the other Saw films, honestly. And Cary Elwes, like, I also don't know why his voice is so much deeper. It's so much more gravelier. Like, he smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day after his leg. Just talking like this. I'm like, is that how Cary Elwes just sounds nowadays? Or did they tell him, what, because your leg gets fucked up, does that also fuck up your voice too? And that's the thing, is that he's in the opening credits, he's in that one scene, and he's in one other scene, which you could, I think people could easily guess. And like I said, you either have Jill in the hospital, not the hospital, the police station, and Costas Mandylor sending messages, and the cops are looking into this investigation. Or Sean Patrick Flanery, like, he wakes up, he almost gets impaled on some spikes down below. What if he had gotten impaled? If he didn't grab it in time, will the game be over? Would the end credits start? Just like he's in this cage and the bomb falls out and he's got to grab real quick. What if he didn't? What if he slipped? What if he had a sliver as, shit, and he fell to his death? Then what about the other traps? Would they not be started? Would it not have people be, well, that would fuck up his plan, right? Would there be a plan B? Or a plan C? And you do get some gory deaths in one. Sean Patrick Flanery's trying to help, but the person's neck gets impaled. In another, the eye gets impaled. In another, which, by the way, if this is Jigsaw's plan, because the way they set up in the film, maybe I missed the point, I apologize, but the way they set up was that Hoffman is following Jigsaw's plan and his machines. Because you see a flashback where Tobin Bell went up to Sean Patrick Flanery in his book and got the book signed, as if Tobin Bell's like, I'm watching you. I'll see you later. Like, this was a plan he was going to implement all along to this guy. So if it was all about the fucking will to survive, these people, it's not about their will to survive. It's about if Sean Patrick Flanery, his will to save these people. So how is that fair to the other people? So what is it, Jigsaw? What's your fucking motivation? What's your motivation? I sound like Josh, I sound like Josh from fucking Blair Witch Project. Where's your motivation? What's your motivation? Is it the will to survive and do what you can to survive, to appreciate life more, or, sorry bitch, you can't do anything, it's on this other person to save you? What about my will to survive? Tough titty. Well, wait a minute. Well, so it's not about the will to survive? Kumite. That's what I mean. This is why one of the main reasons why I hate this fucking franchise. It wants to think it has this thing going on, and it doesn't. Hypocritical bullshit. And then Sean Patrick Flanery, his character fucks up again and again and again, to a point that there's a guy who's blind, and I'm like, well, this guy could easily have fallen off and hung himself earlier, and then the game would have been over. So there's a bit where the guy's like, hey, I know you're blind. catch these teas. So lo and behold, the guy, lo and behold, he doesn't catch the teas because he's fucking blind. And then that one wasn't a gory death, he just got hung. It was like, okay, he's being hung, choked to death. Just, they need a way to save the budget. They can't have all gore death scenes. So then he gets to his wife, he needs to do certain things. He puts hooks on his back, but it falls. He's trying to fix it, but then his wife gets burned to death, which, that's not the wife's fault. She didn't do anything wrong. And then, while that's happening, Detective Hoffman, Costas Mandylor, he planned all this so explicitly to be able to get into a body bag and be taken all the way to the police station. Because thank God nobody ever checked the body bag before, or any of the other stuff that could have happened. The multitude of things that could happen. So then he starts killing people in the police station as if he's the Terminator. I'm like, Costas Mandylor, you're not the fucking Terminator, dude. Puts Jill into a bear trap. She dies. You finally see what the bear trap can do. Practical, but I don't know, something about the makeup at times looked cheap. I don't know what it is. Like, I like the practical nature of it, but I don't know why sometimes it looked cheap. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know if it's the blood they use. I don't know. I don't know. So then it gets to the detective. Hoffman's leaving, and 3 people beat him, and one of them is Cary Elwes. Now, apparently the other 2, I guess based on a commentary, is supposed to be the 2 guys at the beginning in the Saws. I'm like, really? But I'm thinking, wait, Cary Elwes is now a bad guy? Dr. Gordon? So you just, I don't want to say retcon, but in a way it's retconning, like, oh, he was helping the whole time. All the surgical stuff that you wondered, how did Jigsaw do all these surgery things on the victims? Where Cary Elwes did that. So you turned Cary Elwes' character into a full-blown bad guy. That pissed me off the most, because I like Cary Elwes. I liked his character in the first Saw film. I even liked the idea that, hey, maybe he could survive. People survive weirder stuff in real life. They really have. And then to find out that he's a bad guy, and he's been helping Jigsaw the whole time. I despised that revelation. It ruins the character. It makes no fucking sense that this guy that almost got my wife and kid fucking murdered would have had my wife and kid murdered if it wasn't really for like Didn't Danny Glover stop him? I'm trying to remember the details. No. Because Danny Glover got killed and then the guy came in and anyway. His job was to kill your wife and daughter, and guess who gave him the job? Jigsaw did. So yeah, you shackled me, you made me cut off my own leg, you were going to kill my wife and daughter, so let me just work for you, and get a lot of these innocent people, because some of them are innocent people, get them killed, or help you kill them. I hate this fucking movie, man. This is why, for me, it is the worst Saw film. They were so desperate. They said, well, we've already established that, I forget which movie, the guy, Lee Winnell's character, had died. Did you see his skeleton in the room? I forget which Saw film that was. 5 or something, 6 or whatever. I forget what it was. You see Lee Winnell's corpse in there, dried up. I forget which Saw film was it. 4, 3, 4, whatever. 3 or 4, where you find out that she was fucking over and she mercy killed, suffocated Lee Winnell's character. Which I'm like, he won. Why are you killing him in the first place? But whatever. Whatever the fuck. They just need some type of, how do we end this? Well, what's the only other record? Tobin Bell's dead. Shawnee Smith's dead. We kill Lee Winnell's character. Danny Glover's character's dead. Who's the one person that didn't die? Cary Elwes. So, we gotta have a reveal. We gotta have a surprise. Surprise, motherfucker. Even though it's a lousy, shitty, I think most people would say predictable. When they saw the opening. And that's another thing. You had the opportunity to have Cary Elwes. Let him be the lead. And him go up against Hoffman. And have him be the lead. But no. We can't have an actual story. We gotta have overcomplicated, retcon, confusing, stupid bullshit. And then we replay the ending of the first film, where Cary Elwes has shackled Hoffman, took the saw, threw away, game over, closed the door. And we never see Hoffman actually die. So for all we fucking know, there'll be another movie where he's alive and he somehow got out because he short-circuited something or he did something else because he's a cop. Would that really surprise you? Yeah, again, this reminded me why I hated this fucking franchise in the first place. I'm done talking about this. Later.